Media reports from Myanmar say security forces have shot dead at least 9 more protesters. The new violence coming as crowds still turning out in anger against last month's military coup. Joe Biden is promising a vaccine for every adult in America by late May, 2 months earlier than expected. This as the largest state of Texas moves to have people there stop wearing masks. And Germany's moving to ease COVID restrictions too next week, but Angela Merkel saying Europe's biggest economy could see those rules back in place if infections jump once again. Those are your headlines this hour here on France 24. Thanks for joining us. We'll start first with Myanmar, where police have broken up protests in several places around the country. Media reports are saying at least 9 protesters were killed. The country's de facto leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, was arrested at the beginning of February in a military coup. Selena Sykes has the latest.
Protests rumble across Myanmar, with demonstrators taking to the streets again on Wednesday, defying a crackdown as authorities continue to ramp up their response, with reports of police firing into crowds. International efforts to end the turmoil are making little headway. While united in a call for restraint, only 4 members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations called for Aung San Suu Kyi's release after a virtual meeting with Myanmar's military-appointed foreign minister.
Respecting the principle of non-interference is a must, but at the same time, upholding and implementing values of democracy, respect of human rights, good governance, rule of law, and constitutional government are equally important.
The meeting came as a row broke out over Myanmar's United Nations ambassador, after the organisation said it had received 2 contradictory letters. The representative appointed under Suu Kyi insisted he remains in the position, while Myanmar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said it has terminated his duties and responsibilities, and that his deputy is now in charge. Confusion which looks set to widen, as MPs in hiding who were ousted by the military are organising resistance by reportedly appointing politicians to positions in ministries. Meanwhile, Suu Kyi has been seen for the first time since she was detained, after appearing in court via video link on Monday.
In the United States, Joe Biden is moving up America's vaccine calendar by 2 months. The U.S. president says there'll be enough vaccines for all U.S. adults by the end of May.
I'm pleased to announce today, as a consequence of the stepped-up process that I've ordered and just outlined, this country will have enough vaccine supply, I'll say it again, for every adult in America by the end of May. By the end of May. That's progress, important progress. But it's not enough to have the vaccine supply. We need vaccinators, people to put the shots in people's arms, millions of Americans' arms.
Biden is also pushing states to get at least 1 shot into the arms of teachers by the end of this month to try and get American schools finally back up and running. And despite that good news, both Biden and America's top disease expert, Anthony Fauci, say it's still too early to relax COVID restrictions around the country. That didn't stop the largest state of Texas, however, from making moves to reopen already. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says as of next week, businesses can work at full capacity and Texans will no longer be required to wear masks. Andrew Hillier has the details.
It's a sight everyone has grown used to, masks covering faces. And it's soon to be a thing of the past in Texas. For small business owners like Ziggy Gruber, it's good news, but it leaves a bitter taste.
It was wonderful to hear, that he is going to let us open up 100%. I'm a little bit nervous about is they mentioned that taking off the total masks.
Announcing the biggest rollback of coronavirus restrictions out of any U.S. state, Governor Greg Abbott said he was ending the mask mandate on March 10th. Law enforcement officials will no longer be able to penalize people for not wearing face coverings, and businesses will also be able to reopen to full capacity.
For nearly a half a year, most businesses have been open either 75% or 50%. Too many small business owners have struggled to pay their bills. This must end.
Counties with high numbers of patients in intensive care will still be able to apply some restrictions on businesses, but they won't be able to force them to close. Nearly 6 million out of the state's 29 million residents have been given at least one vaccine shot. Although the move has been criticised by health experts, a handful of other US states have also announced plans to ease restrictions.
Germany is also set to start easing coronavirus restrictions as of next week. After months of lockdown there, many Germans just have coronavirus fatigue and are pressuring the government to give them a concrete plan for reopening. Berlin correspondent Emmanuel Ches reports now on the new plans being discussed today that should finally let 2 households get together with a max of just 5 people in place.
On the table today during those discussions between state premiers and Angela Merkel will be first and foremost the extension of the current lockdown until at least the end of March. Shops, non-essential businesses, they will remain closed, as well as restaurants, bars, sports venues, cultural venues closed as well, but with one particular measure which will be discussed today, and that's the easing of social restrictions, social contacts, which means that up until now, only one household was allowed to meet with one external person, one other person. And as you said, well, now 2 households would be able to meet up to 5 other people starting as early as next Monday. And further social contacts, social restrictions might be eased. Also, shops might be able to reopen in those areas in Germany where the 7 days incidence rate would reach 35 per 100,000 inhabitants. Now, there is a major worry here in Germany, and that's the spread of the variant, the coronavirus variant. It led to further to strict restrictions at the borders, not only with France, as we saw as of Tuesday, but also with the Czech Republic and with Austria. And we see a 7 days incidence rate of the virus, which is gradually increasing, and that's a big worry here in Germany.
Emmanuel Ches reporting there from Berlin. Now, Africa is getting millions of vaccines from the international program COVAX. That's in partnership with the World Health Organization. Nearly 4 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine landed in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, Tuesday, the third and largest COVAX delivery to Africa so far. Nicolas Germain reports.
The COVAX initiative began its rollout last week and is stepping up its deliveries. The program is backed by the World Health Organization and aims to provide vaccines for poor and middle-income countries.
Today, we expect deliveries to Angola, Cambodia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Nigeria. Between now and the end of May, 237 million doses of vaccines will be allocated to 142 participating economies and countries in COVAX.
On Tuesday, nearly 4 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine arrived in Nigeria's capital, Abuja.
Last year, we eliminated polio in Nigeria. After many years, we couldn't have done that without a vaccine. Vaccines are one of the most important tools we have in modern medicine.
The batches were made by the Serum Institute of India. They are the first of 16 million jabs that COVAX plans to deliver over the coming months to the country of 200 million people.
It's so important that the health workers are vaccinated first, so not only could they continue the campaign against COVID-19, but also they could resume their work with the routine immunization, with nutrition for children. That is where ultimately the impact is going to be felt.
The Nigerian government urged traditional rulers, religious leaders, civil society groups and the media to spread the message that vaccinations were essential in the fight against this pandemic.
Now to a striking admission from Emmanuel Macron. On Tuesday, the president admitted French forces tortured and murdered the Algerian nationalist and lawyer Ali Boumengel during his country's war for independence. The recognition was made during a meeting with Boumengel's grandchildren on Tuesday, correcting a long-standing allegation that he died from suicide. Karis Garland reports.
The causes of Ali Boumengel's death have been known for 20 years, but on Tuesday the French state admitted to torturing and murdering the lawyer and Algerian independence activist in 1957. In his memoirs, published in 2001, the former head of French intelligence in Algiers confessed to ordering Boumengel's death, then covering it up as suicide. Despite the efforts by his widow, who has since died, no French government had wanted to recognise the assassination.
The President of the Republic received 4 of Ali Boumengel's grandchildren at the Élysée Palace to tell them, in the name of France, what Malika Boumengel would have liked to hear. Ali Boumengel did not commit suicide. He was tortured and then murdered.
The move comes after Macron ruled out issuing an official apology for abuses in Algeria, instead forming a so-called Truth Commission, as recommended by a report into France's colonial past, written by historian Benjamin Stora.
Pourquoi pas faire des gestes symboliques qui permettent l'identification dans la jeunesse, surtout à des personnages, symboles, qui n'étaient pas contre la France, mais contre le colonialisme, ce qui n'est pas pareil, contre le système colonial. Et donc il faut bien aussi faire en sorte que ce travail soit un travail de pédagogie, de transmission d'histoire.
Atrocities committed by both sides during the 1954 to 1962 Algerian War of Independence continue to strain relations between the two countries. To mark the 60th anniversary of the end of the war next year, Macron will take part in 3 days of commemorations.
Nicola Sturgeon is facing calls for her resignation as Scotland's First Minister. Today she's appearing before a parliamentary committee which is investigating her government's handling of sexual harassment complaints against her predecessor, Alex Salmond. Here's what she had to say to Parliament.
I have never claimed in this or anything else to be infallible. I have searched my soul on all of this many, many times over. It may very well be that I didn't get everything right. That's for others to judge. But in one of the most invidious political and personal situations I have ever faced, I believe I acted properly and appropriately, and that overall I made the best judgments I could.
Sharon Gaffney has more now on just what that case is all about.
A bitter row involving 2 of Scotland's best-known politicians. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon is coming under increasing pressure over her role in a crisis that engulfed her predecessor and former mentor Alex Salmond. She's accused of misleading Parliament over a government inquiry into allegations of sexual harassment made against him in 2018.
When complaints are received, it is important that they are not swept under the carpet because of the identity, the seniority or the political allegiance of the person.
Salmond was later acquitted after being charged with multiple counts of sexual assault. Testifying last week, he accused Sturgeon of trying to destroy his reputation and said her government had refused to hand over evidence to a parliamentary inquiry.
It's the Scottish Government, a government which has already admitted to behaving unlawfully, who are under examination.
The claim prompted the opposition to threaten a vote of no confidence in Sturgeon's administration. She's denied the allegations and says she's relishing the opportunity to set the record straight.
One line of inquiry is what role Ms Sturgeon had in the various decisions, etc., that led, first of all, to the disciplinary charges against the First Minister and subsequently the criminal charges.
A separate inquiry is examining whether Sturgeon breached the ministerial code by interfering with the civil service investigation into the sexual harassment allegations. Despite the calls for her to resign, Sturgeon remains popular thanks to her handling of the pandemic and a recent rise in support for Scottish independence. But the row has divided her party less than 3 months before voters go to the polls to give their own verdict.
You are watching France 24. Do stay with us. I'll be back in about 15 minutes with more of your headlines.